In 2014 we saw the release of the Argentinian masterpiece Wild Tales by Damián Szifrón, an anthology film made up of 6 short stories about revenge and lashing out against society. These stories boast strong cathartic power, hilarious, twisty plots and some damn good dialogue.
Necesito hablar con un superior tuyo, por favor.
No, no hay ningún superior para llamar.
¿Ah, no?
Ajá. ¿Quién sos? ¿El presidente de la República, pelotudo?
Esto me lo voy a ver hasta con mis hijos. En vez de Dora la exploradora y todas esas pelotudeces, les voy a poner este video.
¿Vos estuviste presa?
Un tiempo. Y te aseguro que me sentía mucho más libre que acá.
¿Qué hiciste?
Nada de lo que me arrepienta.
But as much as the film is widely beloved, I wonder how many viewers notice the sheer level of visual creativity it displays. Szifrón didn't simply write 6 magnificent scripts, he also endowed them with exemplary style that slings the narrative forward without ever diverting attention from it. And that's what I'm here to talk about. The extraordinary direction of Wild Tales. Shot in the 2:35:1 aspect ratio, the film is the rare example of a modern movie that takes full advantage of its wide image. It does so by making sure the frame is properly filled and, now here's the secret, by using most shots to tell the audience more than one piece of information. Let's start off simple. Here in the third story, The Strongest, the driver gets a flat tire. As he pulls over, Szifrón frames the car on the left with ample room on the right. That's so the driver can fill it up as he checks the damage. As he considers changing the tire and calls his insurance company, we get numerous wide shots that help us understand the geography of this location, what the bridge looks like, the stream right under it, the deserted dusty landscape all around. Over the course of the story, each of these aspects will be important, and without even noticing, the director made you accustomed to them. Similarly, in the very first story, Pasternak, this pullback starts off a scene inside the airplane while showing how empty it is. As Darío Grandinetti flirts with this woman, these casual shots in scope really drive home how empty the plane really is. That's a fact that will play a huge role in the story. We also repeatedly see this woman on the margin. She'll join the scene in no time.
No puedo creer tanta casualidad.
That's what a good use of scope can do. It doesn't give you only more space, it gives more information.
Pero esto es increíble. Acá hay una conexión cósmica.
Back to The Strongest, the driver changes his tire and his enemy arrives in the background, preceded by opportunely dramatic wind and music. The driver locks himself in his car and is repeatedly framed on the left, with the rear view mirror in the middle, conveniently showing his face from another angle. The right of the frame seems rather empty, right? It's not empty, it's waiting. Now it's filled up by violence. The entire width of the screen is utilized. After the assailant has done his surprisingly well photographed business on the car,
Pero por favor, por favor.
our powerless protagonist makes a decision, and here's how the director makes it visually clear. Focus on the cracked windshield on the left. Now rack focus to the angry driver on the right. Szifrón uses this type of rack focus twice more to represent a decision being made. In the 5th story, The Proposal, a rich man's son arrives home after a hit and run, desperate cause he'll go to jail. The father consoles the mother and we see it from behind a window. He turns his attention to the garden behind the camera, unfocused in the reflection. He positions himself on frame right. We pull focus to the groundskeeper as he turns on the lawnmower on frame left. Rack back to the father and we know he's had an idea. He decided to pin the blame on the groundskeeper and we get it from nothing more than a simple change of focus. There's a similar but more elaborate shot in the last story, Till Death Do Us Part. The bride believes that her husband, the Argentinian Bradley Cooper, is having an affair with one of the guests, so she uses her cell phone to check if a mysterious number she saved belongs to her. The suspect in the background, rack focus to the bride in the foreground. She moves to pick up her phone as the camera follows. She walks away to the right to avoid suspicion and makes a call in front of a conveniently placed mirror. We rack focus to see the suspect picking up the phone between the bride and her reflection. Focus back on the bride as she leaves the mirror and decides to face the skank head on. She calls again, and we wreck focus again. Now it's a certainty. A powerful narrative moment presented so clearly you might not even notice how intricate was this game of focus pulling, left and right, foreground and background in a single 60-second shot. Szifrón sure loves his rack focus. See how he uses it to guide your attention in this stylish shot rich in Spielberg style.
Muchas gracias, señora.
No, por favor.
Let's switch to the third story, Bombita. This wouldn't be an Argentinian film without Ricardo Darín after all.
¿Qué se siente ser un chorro? Decime, contame.
He plays a short-fused engineer who gets his car towed 3 times, and each one is shot in a distinct and intelligent way.
Por mí se pueden ir todos a la mierda.
Vos, Edred
Y su secretaria.
fundamentalmente su secretaria. Todos a la mierda.
The first time he's buying a cake. Hey, there's the wedding cake from the last story. Nice Easter egg. Focus on his car on the left. Rack focus to the tow truck arriving on the right. Similar to the flat tire shot in the other story, isn't it? Framed from outside, Darín browses the patisserie, unaware of his car getting towed in the background. When he leaves, a single wide shot shows his confusion. Then it moves down as he approaches to reveal the tow notice. There's some convenient wind lifting up the notice so the camera can see it better. The second time his car gets towed, we don't see it. But the camera shows the tow notice and Darín, and I love this symbolism. Now, spoilers aside, he makes his car get towed a third time on purpose. This pristinely framed composition shows him drinking his coffee. The camera is outside to show people coming and going, but, most importantly, the tow truck passing by in the foreground. Cut to his delicious-looking breakfast, we recede to watch the busy truck in the background. Don't forget the conveniently placed mirror that allows us to see Darín's face better. Now that's a shot. While we're talking about Bombita, notice how many times the protagonist is filmed from afar in wide shots. There are always extras around, working and walking. It's ever clear Darín is our protagonist, but he is presented like any other guy, just another facing the crowd. These wide frames in scope help to make his story feel universal, as if it could happen to anyone. And since we're here, it's a great idea to like and subscribe. It will help you get more videos like this one.
Te ayudo.
Bueno.
There's something you gain when so many shots are as rich as the ones in Wild Tales. You don't need to cut too much. The average shot length in an average film today is something between 3 and 5 seconds. Because of the abundance of so many informative compositions in Wild Tales, I decided to count how many shots the movie has so we could know what's the average shot length of each story. And here's the result. The opening story, Pasternak, clocks 6.5 seconds per shot. The second one, The Rats, has the longest shots with an average of 9.5 seconds. The strongest is an action film, so it fits current trends at 4.4 seconds per shot. Bombita clocks 7.6, The Proposal 6.8, and the last story, Till Death Do Us Part, has an average shot length of 5.8 seconds.
Me acabo de enterar de que mi marido me engaña con otra invitada.
Uy, qué mal.
Since the second story stands out so much with an ASL that's extremely high for current commercial cinema, I figured it's worth giving it a closer look. The Rats is about a waitress who realizes her latest customer is the bastard who destroyed her family in the past. She tells Rita Cortese's cook, who decides they should put rat poison in his food. Simple premise.
Van a pensar que fue colesterol.
Here's the waitress telling the cook. We see the waitress in the restaurant through beaded curtains. She enters the kitchen and we follow her in close-up. The cook arrives from the bathroom in the background. Focus on her, back on the waitress. She tells her sad story as the camera slowly moves to the left, placing the waitress on the right and the bastard on the left in the background. Focus on him. Focus on the waitress and the cook sets the plot in motion with the following line.
¿Por qué no le ponemos veneno para ratas en la comida?
The waitress turns to her and the camera returns to the previous setup.
En el depósito hay Una buena dosis y en 5 minutos le revienta el corazón.
A slow, dramatic move to the left, a quick comic one to the right. After the bastard places his order, the waitress returns to the kitchen. We follow, see the cook pondering on the left and advance to a low angle on the waitress. The off-screen cook places the rat poison on the counter, making sure to create a dramatic arch over the waitress.
¿Querés que vaya presa?
Presa.
How thoughtful of that bastard to choose a table that can be so clearly seen from the kitchen. The cook returns to her station and the waitress refuses her kind offer. Isn't it visually convenient that the cabinet where they keep the poison is right next to the kitchen station? So we can see the cook as the waitress puts the poison away. By now you must have noticed I've said convenient a lot. It's because that's what visual storytelling is all about. Convenience. It's convenient that the wind lifts the tow notice for us. It's convenient that there's a mirror that lets you spy on the party in this spot. It's convenient that this customer they talk about sat on such a visible table. Camera angle, blocking, staging, they're all about positioning every element on the most convenient spot for the audience to see. When everything is done as well as in Wild Tales, the storytelling flows so naturally you don't even notice how everything is laboriously organized. Invisible directing at its best. Back to the scene.
Estupendo.
What a nice waitress who brings your food with such a cinematic pose. And she finds out the cook poisoned the food anyway. The waitress moves to the window to worry as she watches the bastard eating. And we conveniently have another pass-through window for the cook. Each of them gets her own 16:9-ish frame inside the scope frame. Remember how conveniently located is that poison cabinet? Right here in view. The cook switches to the waitress's frame to pick up the box.
Cuando un veneno está vencido, es más o menos dañino.
I love this film. In yet another effective shot, the bastard leaves the frame. We follow his son from inside. They leave the frame to the right. The waitress enters from the left, realizes they might kill a child. She tries to remove the poisoned fries, fails, and leaves. A lateral tracking motion follows her to their double frames.
Tenemos que hacer algo, están comiendo los dos.
¿Poner Rivas veneno?
I love this character. And that's good enough for today. Lucky is the world that has Wild Tales. A masterpiece that stands to prove that a film can be fast-paced, modern, commercial, and still visually sophisticated. It's all a matter of finding the convenient spot for the camera, the convenient spot for the actors, and the convenient spot for the props.
Le hacemos un favor a la comunidad.
If a director does everything right, it's almost like he wasn't even there. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment. What's your favorite tale? Mine changes every time. Also consider joining my Patreon.